Hi, everyone. Welcome to class. Today's essential questions are, what do teachers do on their days off? Do aliens exist? And didn't we already cover this? Let's introduce today's teachers. I'm Mr. Linton, and I once fell asleep at a stop sign as the driver of the vehicle.
Yikes. Is everyone safe, I'm guessing?
It was like for like 5 or 6 seconds, and then I woke up.
Okay.
And then the passenger was like, I said, I just fell asleep. He's like, I thought we were at the stop sign for a while.
At least you weren't slowly rolling forward. I'm Mr. Walter. I never remember important dates. Like when I'm supposed to give chapel, for instance. Or anyone's birthday. You'd think I'd be better about writing them down at this point, but nope.
Always something to work on. I'm Mr. Abbers, and I wrote a college paper on Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, but I didn't really focus on any of the literary aspects. I think I just focused on the scientific implications of trying to resurrect someone, or the scientific things that were happening that maybe influenced Mary Shelley, like electricity affecting, being able to affect the muscles. And my professor was not impressed with that paper.
It sounds like if it was well researched about the science of the time period, that could be a fascinating paper.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of fascinating.
But probably didn't follow the directions.
I
of the
probably
assignment.
Excellent paper. You did not understand
I
the
probably
homework
skirted the
assignment.
directions because I just could not be bothered with literature back then.
Despite all of that, we are still the smartest guys in the classroom. Welcome to class. On today's class, it's question time.
Wait, Mr. Walter, you got to do the phrase. It's you, yes, you in the back.
Oh, it's time for you. Yes, you in the back with your hand raised. Sorry, I don't know your name yet. What's your question?
And we got a couple questions.
We do have a couple questions.
We thank you for all of you who have been sending things in to smartestguyspod@gmail.com.
Send us more.
Please.
For on days when we aren't creative enough to come up with another episode title, or when we're trying to record 2 episodes in one day.
Because there was a power outage that may have thrown off some plans.
Which is why we're wearing the exact same clothes as we were in our last episode. If you're
costume
watching, if you're watching this on the YouTube, but you know what? It's great. We're happy. We're happy to do it, and this is in fact what we do on our days off.
This is what we do on our days off. Yeah.
Yes, we record these. Our first question, episode topic suggestion comes to us from Henry. Thanks, Henry. He titled it "The Value of Ignorance," and it was a very long email, perhaps too long of an email. Henry, you got to work on conciseness.
Brevity is the soul of wit,
I think that's a note that we could give you as your former teachers. And he really, what he noticed and what he observed is that sometimes people feign ignorance, and kind of asked why do people do that? He also kind of explored this question of, is there value in recognizing what you don't know, and also what has the internet done to us? So if there's any of those topics that you gentlemen feel like addressing, like I think the feigning ignorance one is kind of interesting because I know that our students do that. Like they would rather pretend like they don't know than risk being wrong.
Yeah.
That's the biggest difference between lower grade school students and high school students, the self-consciousness of trying things and being wrong. Whereas getting up to like 3rd, 4th grade, students are more than eager to answer questions. Hands shoot up all the time if you ask them. Whereas depending on the group of students you have at the high school level, you will get crickets if you ask for anything that they are not remotely prepared for, or in which they are not 100% certain of the answer. And depending on the combination of students, you may have several students who know the answer, but they just don't want to talking class.
Or if the question seems too easy, they're like, someone else can answer that. I know that was me in high school. When it was just a softball question a teacher would throw just to try and warm up the class, I'd be like, someone else can get it.
Yeah. Which is have you heard of like not choral reading, but like choral question and
Yeah.
response? I don't do it full on, but there are parts like in reviewing for certain things where it would be, I try for that or I aim for that. For just students, don't raise your hands, just say the answers out loud. And if we can all review it together and say it out loud together,
Yeah.
everyone hearing it and everyone actually participating, I feel builds the confidence. And again, that's something you have to build as a teacher and
Yeah.
to get the students used to doing that. But my guess would be that if you have students actively participating by at least answering the softball questions, that's better than just
Yeah.
sitting there.
I think that it all comes down to this movement away from risk taking,
Risk aversion.
risk aversion, and it concerns me.
In terms of feigning ignorance for adults, I know I do this when someone's telling me something that they've already told me, but I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable about that fact.
I think Derek did a whole rant about this.
He did a whole rant from the other perspective of people continuing to tell him the thing that they had already told him.
Yeah.
But when someone tells me something, I will occasionally just let them tell me again, because that feels more comfortable. Although I feel like oftentimes I'm on the other side. I will, someone say, you'll know about this, right? And I'll say, yep.
When you don't.
When I don't know a lot about, maybe I've heard about it, but I know nothing about it, I'll just say, yep. To say we're on the same page and move on.
Yeah. That's almost more dangerous. That is a lot more dangerous than
It can be.
assuming that they don't know what you're trying to talk about and you just repeat yourself.
Yeah.
And what I find, like, this default mode of I don't know is almost like passive. I don't know. If there's something that I don't know, for me it's like a challenge accepted. Like, I'm gonna find the answer. I'm astounded by people's like comfort level of not knowing. Yeah,
I think it depends on the subject matter. Like, if I don't know something about music, like how to read sheet music, I don't look that up.
well, you don't.
But if it's something about science or linguistics especially, I will dig for hours to figure that one out.
And that goes to your comfort level of the background information. You have some context for science and some context for language. Some people do not have any context or very little context. Their schemas for those particular domains are very, very lacking.
I wonder if part of that's learned helplessness in the classroom of someone else will answer this question so I can coast. And then you get to something like adulthood and it's something you don't know and you're like, I can coast. Other people around me will figure this out for me.
Yeah.
Or at least recognizing where your strengths are and what you need to do. I don't need to know how to do that. Like,
That's fair.
Could I change the oil in my car? I am 100% confident that I could do that. But I'm not gonna.
I would like to change my own oil again.
I think it's more expensive if you go out and buy
I think it
the
might
oil
now be more expensive.
and the filter. I remember.
Although Walmart had like a trade-in program of like they would take used motor oil, and I think that would help with the cost offsets and everything.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What were the other parts of this question? We've gone on
What is
three
the internet
tangents now.
not knowing what you
The
don't
value
know?
recognizing. We kind of touched on most of it. Is there value in recognizing what you don't know?
Yes.
Yes. Next
And
question.
That's where I was. That's where I was going with the challenge accepted.
Yeah.
Like if it's I know I don't know this, so I'm gonna figure it out. One of the things I often say is, when people ask me about all of my degrees that I have for unknown reasons. I often say that each one has just made me realize more what I don't know. I ask better questions now.
Right.
Do I know more? Probably, but what I realize more is what I don't know, and what questions to ask and how to find the answers.
I found it somewhat nice in adulthood, figuring out things that I don't know or don't have a good handle on, and trying to decide, okay, do I read the Wikipedia article? Do I have AI give me a summary of it? Or do I go out and try to find a book to read about it?
Yeah.
And I do like to try to be reading constantly. So if it's something that comes up a lot, like I have a book on hold right now on Victorian Europe,
Yeah.
Victorian age Europe, like the 1800s, late 1800s up to the 1900s, because I just don't know. My wife and I watch so many period dramas from the 17 and 1800s that like I want to know politically what's going on here.
Yeah.
Like the one we're watching right now is it takes place in Cornwall, England, but it's happening during the French Revolution. So they're talking about all these aspects of how the English aristocracy are viewing the French Revolution, and they're scared that this is going to happen, and they're sending troops to try to reinstate the king, some royalist troops, and they just dropped Napoleon Bonaparte's name, and just knowing some of the, like, in terms of history, and then other times I just want to know something specific to science or try to keep up to date with science. I find that's just a pastime for me. I know that's not for everyone.
Yeah.
But to be a well-informed citizen, I think it's fair to say that is a responsibility that falls to everyone.
I would agree. And I think that ties to this question, like, what has the internet done to us as far as ignorance and things go? And that I think some people have come to the belief, I don't need to know anything because I can just look it up on the internet.
Yeah.
But I think that's false, because you've lost the ability to know if what you read on the internet is accurate. If you don't have the schema, like you talked about in the realm of science or mathematics, you come up with some pretty wackadoo things. You just read things and believe them because they're on the internet, because you don't have a framework to compare them to or to attach that piece of knowledge to.
Yeah.
And that's why school is important, because we're trying to teach you that, especially at like high school and college level, where you're getting to the point where you are evaluating sources and you're creating information yourself, but you're having to base that on other reputable sources.
I've actually had students cite this mindset at me, quoting Albert Einstein, and I don't know if he actually said this or not, but never memorize something you can look up in an encyclopedia.
I just saw that come up again on X.
And with the really complicated formulas that he's dealing with in physics, or the universal constants that he's dealing with in physics, that can apply. But newsflash, students who like to use that quote, Einstein wasn't infallible. Infallible. He wasn't infallible. Niels Bohr proved him wrong on at least one topic. And I've also heard he couldn't tie his shoes. So,
Did you read that on the internet?
no, I read that in a book when I was in grade school. And I don't know if the author just made that up, but you always see pictures of Einstein in like sandals and slippers. So maybe it's just a myth that he couldn't tie his shoes, but nobody's perfect. You need to have a framework. He had a lot of knowledge in his brain, or he wouldn't have been able to do the things that he did in his 20s. So yeah, build up your brain so that you can rely on the encyclopedias for the really niche things, or the internet for the really niche things.
Yeah.
All right, the next category is we had a bunch of people email in misconceptions that they had or were told that are absolutely not true. And so I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to read the misconception, and then you can react. Okay. First one comes from Melanie. Thanks, Melanie. It's illegal to drive with the interior light on in your car.
False. But this is a meme of I hear it from like millennial accounts on social media, because that was apparently, and I remember my dad saying that.
My
Like,
parents.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
they never said that it was illegal, but they just did not want the interior light on.
They used the term illegal.
I think mine used illegal. Maybe.
And I think it might be widespread enough that people actually think it's illegal. It's certainly unsafe. Would a cop pull you over if they see all the interior lights on in your vehicle? Maybe.
Depends on what they can see going on in the vehicle with all the lights
but
on.
like
Yeah.
the cops know how unsafe that is when there's an interior light and you're driving at night. So they might pull you over anyway. That doesn't necessarily make it illegal. It just makes it unsafe. So maybe that's where it came from. I don't know. I've been trying to figure out where this one came from. If anyone knows, please email us at smartestguyspod@gmail.com.
I remember, well, I've driven my family around, and my boys have put the lights on in the back. And sometimes I've just had them on just because they need to find something or do something. And as a driver, it's doable. It's not the worst. In fact, I maybe even go so far as to say it doesn't really bother me as a driver. But sometimes you do get some glare, and it's not as, you can't see as well.
The closer to the front they are, I think the worse they are.
Yeah.
And then it affects the rear view mirror.
If you have a larger vehicle, like a larger SUV or a minivan, if you just have the back ones on, I don't feel it's that much of an issue.
Next misconception. The next couple come from Carson. Thanks, Carson.
Thanks, Carson.
Goldfish have bad memories.
Mythbusters busted this. They were able to train goldfish.
What did they train them to do?
Go through colored hoops. They did some classical conditioning, like Pavlovian conditioning, put food in colored hoops, acrylic hoops, and they got the fish to go through a maze in an aquarium.
Fascinating. I knew that it was a myth, but I didn't know that they did it like that. I want to train my goldfish to sit and stay now.
They've also put goldfish in fish bowls that allowed them to drive around. And I think the
that's right.
the fish have been able to navigate through different mazes.
Wasn't that a panel in the Far Side cartoon where the fish was
I don't know.
In a little fishbowl car?
Probably. Misconception. Under enough pressure, coal can be turned into diamonds.
Oh, I was going to research this one, but I didn't.
I was too. I don't know about. I know they're carbon, but yeah, I have often been told in geology, you get something like coal, and then it, what's the term when it gets pulled down towards the mantle? Subducts. It's been a while. You get subduction, and then the heat and pressure can reformulate the bond, just like you get granite, which turns into gneiss, which turns into marble, which turns into schist. But I don't know. I guess maybe diamonds come from rock processes, whereas coal and petroleum comes from animals decomposing. Is that the distinction? But they're both deposits of carbon.
Yeah, you need the carbon there. There's not much that I'm finding right now, just that.
Carson, if you lied to us, I'm going to be very upsetty spaghetti.
We can also make lab-grown diamonds now. It is rather... I was just doing some reading on this, that diamonds apparently aren't as rare as we would be made to believe. This is from
They're
one
just
author.
all in a Swiss bank.
This was from one author in one book, a book on lies. This is a rather fascinating book. But so her take on the whole diamond cartel and the diamond conspiracy is that the big cartel, De Beers,
Yeah, De Beers.
they invented the idea of the diamond engagement ring after World War II to kind of solidify the need for more diamonds. And when we discovered diamonds in South Africa, because apparently before they were just found in like alluvial plains and places like India, and they were very, very rare. in 1800s and before, but 1900s and afterward, they're relatively easy to find. Still rare, but like there's no shortage of diamonds today, and we are able to now to manufacture diamonds. The manufactured diamonds are not that much cheaper than the real diamonds, and the real diamonds, their value is only staying high because we think it should stay high, and there's kind of just one company that oversees the price of it. So it's, again, you could
It
probably
is very much like a majority of them are in a Swiss bank, and
Yeah.
the shortage is induced to keep the price up.
Yes, they've artificially shorted the market so that the price stays up.
Another myth I've heard is that diamonds are a girl's best friend.
Probably came up with Buy De Beers.
It's one of the jeweler companies.
Yeah. Another one. Some people are left-brained, some are right-brained.
False.
Yeah, I don't know where this one even came from. Was it from the guy who had to have his brain cut in half to stop the excess flow between the two halves, and then they noticed some weird behaviors? Like you can do more separate things with the two halves of your body and everything like that.
It may come from the split brain surgeries and then like oversimplified by
Yeah.
people to say, oh, I'm more right-brained, so I am more artistic, or I'm more left-brained, so I'm more mathematic. Whereas a lot of those heavier cognitive abilities are global, where it's both hemispheres are talking to each other
Yeah.
all the time. You can stick someone in a functional MRI, you can see their brain, many parts of their brain light up. You can nail down specific regions of the brain for particular purposes. Typically, in a typical brain, language is processed like up over here on both sides, vision processed in the back in the temporal lobe.
Occipital.
Sorry, thank you. Prefrontal cortex is higher reasoning and decision making. We know a lot about this because people have had interesting injuries. Like we mentioned Phineas Gage, I think, in a previous
Yeah,
science
we did,
episode,
yeah.
changed his personality. People have gone blind by sharp blows to the back of the head. Then you have the atypical brains. You just mentioned split brains. So if you cut the corpus callosum, where the two sides of the brain can't communicate with one another, you can get phantom limb syndrome, where you've got your subconscious is then controlling a limb, and your conscious brain is not aware of it. So it's like grabbing candy and junk food off the supermarket shelf when you're not
Interesting.
aware of it. Or you split your field of vision, and your one side can actually see an object, the other side can see it. You don't consciously picture it in your mind's eye, but you could draw it. And then you have really interesting cases where people have had a whole hemisphere removed, or there have been other cases where there's either been a tumor or fluid has filled the brain, and a vast majority of the brain tissue has died or has gone away. And this speaks to the neuroplasticity of the brain, where the brain can rewire itself so that it can still do the jobs to keep you alive and keep a lot of your mental faculties intact, but with a lot fewer neurons than you are used to.
Interesting.
I think this left brain, right brain thing also kind of reminds me of one of the other misconceptions that people talk about, like learning styles, which I think has been debunked.
I was gonna do a rant on that.
I would
But
have
I
given you a
didn't.
good grade for that.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. But it still sticks. I mean, even
does.
people who are like teachers, 'cause like at one point this was a thing that was taught,
Yeah.
but all of the science has debunked it. I mean, what it comes down to is people learn best when information is presented in multiple means or multiple formats. So if you can see it and hear it, and like the more different ways that you interact with that same information, the more likely you are to remember it. But there isn't any evidence to suggest that some
Yeah.
people learn better using one, like people who are like, well, I'm a visual learner.
Yeah.
Well, you maybe you say that because then it's visual and auditory, and like so you're getting the same information multiple ways. It's not that.
It's interesting. Everyone's wired differently. I think this whole misconception comes from just an argument in semantics. Because people say, well, people don't have a dominant way, but they have ways that they prefer. That's the same thing. Like, I prefer taking notes. So when I do the test, it says I am dominant kinesthetic learner. That's the same thing. Even if I learn from all of them, I think it's just an argument in terms. People misterming things. I had a fascinating student in my computer class where I always teach the stuff up on the screen, and that student would not look at the screen. They would look at me so that they could like focus on listening to me, and they wouldn't watch any of it, and they would do their assignments better than the people that would watch the screen a lot of the times. And I think she just preferred auditory listening and was better at that because of it. So I think there is some of it, but everyone learns in every way is kind of the argument against it. And
there might be something, you're talking about preference, and there might be something psychologically tied to confidence, and I think maybe it ties to that self-efficacy piece. Like, if I do my notes this way, then I always do well. So if I do my notes this way, then I'm
Right.
going to believe that I'm going to do better. And then so I think there's a self-efficacy piece to it, but I don't think it's anything particular to that mode of learning, more to the psychology of confidence and routine.
I think I said this on the onset that the topics of learning, teaching, education, and neurology are rather complex. And teachers have we almost have an impossible task in some ways to try to, in terms of an ideal scenario, trying to get an ideal formula for teaching. This is a thorny subject of trying to delve into the history of education and educational techniques. We often try to oversimplify into things that we can comprehend. When you do that, you leave out outliers, you leave out pieces of evidence that doesn't work for everyone. And that also goes for human consciousness and neurology. We are still figuring out consciousness. We don't have a great model for that. We know the mechanics of the brain. We know how neurons fire, but how all that leads to the consciousness and our experience, our objective or subjective experience, is still something that is being worked out, that we can't just reduce down to a very simple thing.
Final misconception. Cracking your knuckles causes arthritis.
There's the famous story of the one guy who just cracked the knuckles on one hand and not the other, and there was no difference. Now, I always said that that's proof that that's not a thing. That would be one data point. That is not how science works.
it's a very small sample size.
Yeah, but I think they've also done larger, more proper scientific research to suggest that no, it does not cause arthritis.
And also, like, anyone who goes to a chiropractor would be fixing their body in the short term and then turn into a rock when they were older.
All their joints just expand.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for those. Next question comes from Ryan. Is humanity more likely to encounter extra-dimensional beings or extraterrestrial aliens?
Okay.
Neither.
I have a good answer for this, I think. One could say that God is an extra-dimensional being.
See, I was going to say, do angels qualify, but
I think God and angels would probably qualify. We are religious. If you didn't know that, you should listen harder to the podcast. We bring up religion quite a bit. In terms of extraterrestrial, do I think it's possible? Yes. There's an author, H. Beam Piper, who in his book Little Fuzzy, if you want a really heartwarming sci-fi to read, Little Fuzzy, and he details. He was really good at coming up with really niche things that no one had applied to sci-fi yet, like certain political circumstances and everything. And he came up with a way of distinguishing between sentient and sapient. So is it sentient like a dog, or is it sapient like a person? Which is kind of like trying to define, does it have a soul or not, I guess. And the argument of whether if it talks and builds fire, is that enough to be sapient? And stuff like that. And it's a very interesting discussion.
Reminds me of a different podcast I listened to where they were debating like what animals are people.
Right.
And one of the guys argued like if it's an animal where I could accuse it of intent of being, like if I think the animal is evil, like could make an evil decision, then it's people.
Right.
So he was like octopuses, octopods, he argued were people
Right.
because they could crawl into your tank and kill you like on purpose. He argued.
Yeah. Or like a dog would be people in that circumstance.
Yeah.
But my point about bringing this up is, in the beginning, God had 24 hours per type of animal to say, let there be, and it would poof into existence. Do you think it would take all 24 hours to fill the earth, or would he be able to spread them around a little?
I think we can establish that God's capable of anything. So
I think he could fill a lot of planets if he wanted to in 24 hours. Whether or not he has, we'll find out. So I think we will, or we could find sentient creatures on other planets. Maybe there's a purple dinosaur named Bobo out there somewhere.
Why would he have a name?
I don't know. I'm naming him.
Okay.
But whether or not we'll find sapient, the Bible's pretty clear on that fact. I don't think we will. If we do, I think it's going to rock a lot of worldviews, and we'll have to figure something out.
well, that was the
at that point.
That was the follow-up question. How would the discovery of either affect the Christian worldview?
I don't think finding sentient creatures affects it at all.
I would agree.
Finding sapient creatures. There was another short story by Ray Bradbury, although Little Fuzzy is not a short story. So there's a short story by Ray Bradbury where they bring Christianity to Mars to try and convert the Martians. It's a fascinating little read, and they realize the Martians eventually come to speak to them and say they're like these glowing orbs, and they say basically, "Hi, we don't need this because we aren't sinful." So it might be a circumstance like that. I'm sure some people argue that angels could be classified as aliens or something like that. Maybe they're just trying to say that, look at these biblical accounts, those are actually extraterrestrial. Or maybe it's the other way around.
Is it aliens?
Is it aliens,
Ancient
though?
aliens.
Interesting question. I don't think we'll know the answer to that question until it happens, which I doubt it will.
When Adam and Eve sinned, I don't think sin was just confined to Earth. Otherwise, we'd be able
That's a good thought.
Otherwise, we'd be able to escape Earth and achieve perfection again. Or
No,
find-
we would bring sin with
we'd
us.
bring sin with us.
That would be an interesting book if we find another paradise and we brought sin there. I'm sure that's been done in some form or another.
When God gave us,
Avatar.
yeah,
There we go.
yeah, when God
it was an Avatar.
when God gave us the Great Commission, He said, "Go into all the world." Mm-hmm. Not
Yes.
all the
Not all the universe.
Although I don't know if there is any word for in the Greek to insinuate going.
What's the Bible verse where Jesus talks about like I have other sheep that are not of this sheep pen?
They're not of this sheep pen. I think that's just referring to Gentiles because he was speaking to the Jews.
But
at
I've
the
heard
time.
some people like use that to try to say aliens.
Aliens. Yeah, I've heard the argument posited to me from students and other people that they believe that sapient creatures exist on other planets, but they have been placed far enough away that we can't wreck it for them. So we can't bring sin to them. The question then is, did God have to die for every planet that he
Yeah.
populated? Or are we just one of the bad ones? We went way off the rails with this question.
It's kind of I feel it's like the logical thing you need to take the argument in.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of what we're saying is pretty much unprovable at this time and place.
Very much so.
So it is a personal philosophy, a headcanon, if you will, going because the Bible just does not speak to anything outside of the earth that I can think of.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not sold on when you mentioned the like angels or God being extra dimensional. I will say that God is outside the laws of the universe.
Correct. I think that is a good definition for extra dimensional.
Yeah. Well, see, I don't. I mean, because dimensional,
If the laws of space and time do not apply to you,
right? But you're saying like I thought you made it sound like he's in another dimension.
No. Well, is that what they're defining extra dimensional as? They're in one dimension and they'll cross over to this dimension at some point in time?
Because are they defining?
Because God is in every dimension. I think that is extra dimensional.
Sure. If yeah, and like where are the extra dimensions coming from? Are they coming from how we understand how one could interpret quantum mechanics with the many worlds
Probably.
interpretation? There are the extra dimensions that string theory wants to have so that they can have their strings explain all of the
Right.
properties of matter, which there is no current proof for the extra dimensions, extra higher spatial dimensions needed by string theory. There is currently no proof. I don't know if there's any current theoretical experiment that could prove the many worlds, uphold the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. It is all, at this point, philosophy. It is a interpretation in the fact that there is no current way to get empirical evidence for it. So to that end, I personally subscribe to the idea of not trying to put God into a box, not trying to explain everything about God with science or with the framework of science, to leave it to his own thing.
Yeah.
Next question. This one comes from Ethan. I'm paraphrasing. How do y'all feel about one-to-one devices in schools?
Get rid of them. Next question.
That's what Jonathan Haidt and all of the people under his movement of the... Yeah, there's a...
You saw the look on my face and went, yeah, this needs context.
Well, yeah, he wrote the Ancient Generation, which is the hot
Right.
book right now that parents
Yeah.
and teachers are reading about the effect of social media and technology on their kids and adolescents. And that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is we live in a technologically driven world where students as adults will need to interact with this pretty much on a daily basis. So finding the middle where they are taught how to use it responsibly, but not given it as a crutch, and to also teach them how to not be reliant on it or to not fill their free time with it.
Yeah.
I think my take would be our current society pushed it down too low. Like primary grade students, I think there's a threshold where there's no way they can be responsible with them. Like they don't have the impulse control.
Like iPads in kindergarten classrooms.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think it's being pushed down too far, and that waiting longer to introduce those in schools is probably a good thing.
Yeah. One of the master's classes I took over the summer was on technology integration into education, and there's still that movement of technology is a powerful tool to enhance learning, and there's a lot of people who would argue that they'd want to see technology introduced as early as possible from in like the higher ed circles.
For the record, I'm not against introducing technology, but the idea that it'd be kind of the one-to-one implies it's part of their school supplies. You know, like
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I don't like that.
I just don't. And maybe a piece of that is I don't know how effectively we have equipped teachers to teach them how to be responsible with them.
Yeah.
Digital citizenship is part of our computer apps curriculum, correct?
It's a very small part.
Okay. So it could be bigger.
It could be bigger. It's the technology evolves so fast. You don't know what to touch on in a given year. Like, do we talk about AI now?
Yes.
Should we talk about social media? What do you talk about with social media? They're all different.
Stuff that could get them in trouble at school.
Yeah, we basically tell them don't be stupid on the internet. That's the digital citizenship unit.
That's good advice.
And we explain how the internet works, but I'm not sure any of them will remember that in the future. I think a lot of students struggle with we are learning coping mechanisms later in life than we're supposed to. Which we're trying to massively undo that as a society with things like making therapy a lot more accessible and everything like that to try and teach people those coping mechanisms that they didn't get. And I wonder, kind of tied up in that, I wonder if there's been a significant decrease in journaling that is correlatable with rise in technology. Because I knew a few people who journaled adamantly when I was in college. I never journaled growing up. And I didn't have a lot of technology until late middle school. But I guess it is less popular for guys in general. I'd be interested to see, because I think journaling is it used to be almost universal, ubiquitous, one might say. And it's gone far down.
It's a very, very healthy habit to have because it unpacks your thoughts.
Yeah.
As opposed to just burying them down or ignoring them by going to a device and distracting yourself, having the ability to process your thoughts in words. I put up some graphics on my door like 2 years ago, and I've just left them up because I think they're just little poignant reminders for students. One of them is what's in your brain. It's got the brain, and it's got all these messy thoughts. And then you put them on paper, and then it solidifies it, crystallizes them, and allows the person to reflect on them, make sense of them, take them in, non-judgmentally say, okay, this is what I was feeling at this point in time, process that, and then move on.
Yeah.
I just saw there's a study released recently about the anxious generation. And what the study found is that one of the ways that schools and experts have been trying to help students with anxiety is avoidance. So if speaking in front of class gives you anxiety, then your IEP says you don't have to speak in front of class. But that actually makes anxiety worse. That the instinct, the avoidance, to deal with anxiety through avoidance actually increases anxiety because it's exposure therapy of facing your fears and realizing that to a large extent they're irrational gets you through that. And if our strategy is just avoidance, it makes it worse. Next question. This one's from Nathan. Would you rather have unlimited bacon but no more games, or unlimited games but no games?
games. How are we defining games here? Board games, video games, sports games to participate in and/or view. Not that
It's
it makes
not
much
that,
difference.
it's not that
to
hard of
Mr.
a
Walter.
question, Derek.
Unlimited bacon, but no games, or games.
Unlimited
games,
but no games.
But no games.
Is the second option the better one?
I have no.
No, I think it's definitely the first option.
the
you
second
get
one. You
unlimited
have
bacon.
nothing. There is only one choice in this question, Nathan. I hate this question. I have students repeat this question to me because of you. Frequently, still.
Thank you for your question, Nathan. I loved it. Final question from Ethan, different Ethan. Is the Switch 2 worth buying?
No. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Look, my answer to any video game system, is it worth buying, is what are the game exclusives? You know, what are the games that you can only get if you get that system?
Nothing, because everything is emulated on PC.
Legally?
Gray area.
Yeah. You know, because the original Switch might be worth buying just for Breath of the Wild, you know, by itself.
I'm sure they'll port it to Switch 2 so they can resell it.
Yeah,
right?
of course they will. But if there's a Switch 2 exclusive that is so good that then it becomes worth buying, I probably will not be buying one.
I just got 2 Wii's for free.
Woo! Yeah, skip the Switch 2. Buy like a Game Boy Color. You could probably get a Game Boy Color at like 100 games for the cost of buying the Switch 2, let alone one Switch 2 game, which are now like $80, $90, right?
I think they're at least 70.
They're up there.
Game Boy Color. Get an SP. Those things flip. They're great.
Or just get a PC.
Or just get a PC. You can emulate everything.
Or find a good book.
Yeah.
But look, books are also good. But
Find a board game you like.
I like board games too.
Not Monopoly.
Not I did a rant on Monopoly.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna make
not
that-
Monopoly.
Not Monopoly.
Not Ticket to Ride. That
Ticket to Ride's fine.
burn it. Useless game. Find something you enjoy. If that's Ticket to Ride, fine. If it's Monopoly, just be nice to your friends. They're playing with you because they care about you, not because they like the game. I hate to break it to you.
Some people like Monopoly, but they just don't know better.
If you have more questions, please send them to us at smartestguyspod@gmail.com. That's smartestguyspod@gmail.com. We used to say, or just ask us in person. But if you ask us in person, let's be honest, we're going to forget. So
Yeah,
just
we are
email
going
us.
to forget. I mean, that's my default. Students are like, "Hey, can I take the test later today?"
Send me an
If you
email.
do not send me an email, it's not happening.
It's not happening. Yeah. So send us some emails. Any topic for the question specifically?
No, it's just any question.
Fine. Any question?
Or if you have episode ideas, we have some of those that have been submitted, and at least 1 or 2 of them are in the hopper. And so if you're disappointed that we didn't answer your question, that's because it might get its whole own episode. Because you're that special. We did not ignore intentionally any questions.
We can't afford to.
Class dismissed.